guys, come with me to make mozzarella cheese. Here are all the ingredients I will need to make the mozzarella. I start by washing my hands to avoid contamination. Then I wipe down my workspace. I poured the citric acid into the distilled water and stirred until dissolved. Then I cut the rennet tablets into fourths. I crushed the quarter I will need into dust. I poured the dust into the water and stirred until it was dissolved. I did see a brownish powder. Then I poured in the gallon of milk into the pot, stirred the citric acid solution, and set the pot over medium-high heat and warmed to 90 degrees. Then I added the rennet and slowly counted to 30. Once I got there, I stopped stirring and let it sit undisturbed for 5 minutes. Once that was done, I opened the pot to see a tofu-like texture. Then I cut the curds into a grid-like pattern. I put the pot back on heat and warmed the curds to 105 degrees. I slowly stirred the curds as to try not to break them up. Eventually the curds clumped together and I could see the yellow whey. Once that was done, I removed the pan from the heat and continued stirring for another 5 minutes. Then I separated the curds from the whey using a strainer. The curds were about 100 degrees. I microwaved the curds for 30 seconds to get to a temperature of about 120 to 125 degrees. I squished and poured out the extra whey. Then I microwaved them again to get to 135 degrees. After that, I sprinkled the salt over the cheese and squished it with my fingers to incorporate the salt. I stretched and folded the curds repeatedly for about 30 seconds. I split the curds up and shaped them into 2 balls. Taste test time! So the cheese does have a firm bite, but it doesn't stretch as much as I'm used to from the store cheese, or as much as I think it should. So the surface is not as glossy as expected, and the inside is a little dry. So it does have a little stretch to it, but not as much as I would expect. After trying the cheese, I stored it in some leftover whey and salt. Curds are formed when casein proteins in milk coagulate, trapping fat and water to create a semi-solid gel. Whey is the liquid that remains. It has water, lactose, soluble vitamins, minerals, and whey proteins. Citric acid is added to the milk because it lowers the pH of the milk. This neutralizes the negative charge of the casein. This destabilization allows the casein to come together. It aggregates into curds when enzymes like rennet are added. Rennet is a coagulant that contains the enzyme chymosin. Chymosin splits K-casein, which is the protein that stabilizes casein in suspension. Once K-casein is split, it loses its stability and forms the curd. I did have to make this recipe twice because it did not work out the first time. All the steps were going well until I went to cut the cheese into cubes and it did not cut at all. It was very liquidy and not stable enough to make those cubes. It also didn't have the tofu-like texture. I think a part of the reason it didn't go so well is because I let the milk cook a little too long. If I were to do this again, I would make sure that the milk boils right to 90 degrees. The second time around, I turned off the stove once it got to 86 degrees. This proved to be a better method because then it was just cooking in the pot until it reached 90 degrees. I also had to microwave the cheese for a long time to get it to exactly 135 degrees. This is part of the reason why the cheese wasn't as stretchy as I thought it would be. I probably also overworked the cheese after microwaving because it was not coming together as described. The gloves had a texture to them as well, so it kept imprinting on the cheese and made a rough surface. The final product from the second go-round did taste correct despite the texture not being right. I was also able to cut the curd and visibly see the cubes form. I saw the tofu-like texture. Thank you so much for watching. This was definitely a hard recipe, but I would recommend it. It's a good learning experience.